This show is brought to you by Go Live TV. Download the app now.
Welcome, Joe Volpe, publisher of Corriere Canadese, on behalf of Go Live TV and Corriere Media Group, with the comment of the day. Change is in the air. It's spring, and so it should be, especially politically in the city of Vaughan. So that's where our comment is today, because there's a by-election coming up on Thursday. Righting a wrong. Now, Vaughan can deliver a message on Thursday. A rule of thumb, a quick guide for people who want to make a choice in a political environment is simply this. Check the application of the 3 Ps. Is the issue about principle, process, or personalities? In Thursday's by-election, to replace the retired York Region District School Board trustee Anna DeBartolo, it's about all 3. Now let's start with personalities. DeBartolo was chair of the York Region District School Board when staff and trustees prior to the last election. She and the then director, Jay Parapali, allowed an issue to balloon to such proportions that she resigned the chair. The director was forced out and replaced by Louise Cirisco. One trustee was forced to resign under a cloud of unpleasant allegations that tarnished the reputation of the entire board. Charlene Grant, whose insistent and persistent sacrifices on behalf of her children's right to a safe and secure school environment, was the catalyst for those abrupt changes. She took the campaign to its logical next step. She sought the election to the school board in wards 1 and 2, that's Woodbridge, where DeBartolo inexplicably sought re-election. And more surprisingly, she beat Grant, who ranked second. In the meanwhile, Parapali filed a statement of claim against both the school board and the chair who replaced DeBartolo, Laura Lee Carruthers, for multi-millions of dollars. Carruthers had filed a statement of defense, Neither can be resolved without a discovery in which the professional relationship between DeBartolo and Parapali, who enjoyed what some have called a lifetime contract with the school board, will be stripped for all to criticize. Now let's morph from personalities to process. DeBartolo was duly sworn in December of 2018. On January 9th, at the board's first full meeting of 2019, she declared her abrupt resignation from her post, citing personal reasons. That same evening, the board voted 7-4 to ask the city of Vaughan to immediately set in motion the mechanism for a by-election to replace her. Director Cirisco provided a briefing note to trustees indicating that in 7 out of 8 previous indications where there had been a vacancy before terms were expired, filled via an appointment. The 8th went to a by-election when the public protests forced the board's hand. In all 8 cases, the board had either consulted the public via advertising the vacancy or invited the public input from ward electors at a pre-announced board meeting for that purpose. Cost was always a preeminent consideration in any decision, as was a consideration that the second-place candidate in the previous election should be considered first. That didn't happen in this case. The City of Vaughan Department for Elections was consulted immediately after the offices were opened in the new year. By January the 7th, they had provided an estimate of the cost, $177,424.34, an amount that should have steered everybody towards the other consideration, appointing the second-placed individual, Charlene Grant. You should note trustees don't get more than $22,000 per year. DeBartolo resigned on January the 9th, that same night. Clearly the board, senior staff, and the chair knew what was about to happen. Otherwise, they wouldn't have sought out the estimates, nor would they have prepared a letter of certification directed to the city to start the electoral process the very evening they received the official resignation. That means they didn't give themselves any time for consideration, for public input, or for any consultation. It's difficult not to infer that the board made a decision to keep Charlene Grant out. In 2 subsequent board meetings following the private sessions, trustees let the director do all of the talking. She's not elected. They didn't want to deprive the public of their democratic rights, or as the director said, repeated ad nauseum, the board wants to respect the process. A skeptic might wonder, whose? When it was pointed out to them that their bylaws allow for reopening of the issue, provided any trustee who had voted in favor of the original plan to hold a by-election were to move to reopen the decision for further debate and subsequent vote, they were silent. People use the argument of process, not merely because society's stability is founded on it, that's true, but also because it's a convenient defense when they're in control of that process and can use it to avoid a discussion on principle. Grant's tenacity represents a call for transparency, non-discriminatory delivery of services, and respect for human dignity besmirched by questionable economic practices and borderline racism. Those 2 faults were what led the ministry to intervene, cancel contracts, and now discussions in the court regarding the practices of individuals in the York Region District School Board. Wards 1 and 2 are inhabited predominantly by Italian Canadians. They don't tolerate racist behavior, nor do they countenance abuse of public position for personal gain. They can prove it on Thursday by voting and teaching the school board a lesson they should have self-taught on January the 9th. Charlene Grant should be the trustee. Joe Volpe for Corriere Canadese Go Live TV, reminding you to vote on Thursday. And this isn't a paid political announcement, it's just a logical thing to vote for Grant. Stay tuned for our commentary in Italian, following immediately after these announcements.